We have reached day 4 of the Lori Vallow trial, and chicken enchiladas have become a hot topic of discussion. Colby Ryan is in the courtroom today, as I mentioned last night in my community post. The first witness is up, and it is Adam Cox, pro pickleball player and instructor. Before that, he did a radio show. He explains his family history. He identifies Lori. Lori was married to Charles Vallow for over 10 years. Lori married Chad Daybell after Charles died. She had 2 children before marrying Charles, Colby, and Tylee. Adam's son Zach actually lived with Lori for a bit after Colby moved out. Tylee was under 18 in 2019. Lori and Charles adopted JJ together. In 2019, JJ and Tylee were the only ones that lived with them. Alex and Lori became oddly close for a while. Adam didn't know of Alex doing things with just Charles. Alex is a member of the LDS Church and was excommunicated twice from the church. In 2019, he was excommunicated. Adam and Charles texted and spoke on the phone. Charles would sometimes pay for cell phones for various members of the family. Charles traveled a lot. Lori was a hairstylist before marrying Charles. Then he didn't know her to work. He talked to Charles about why him and Lori were having marital problems. Lori told Adam that she was in the process of translating from a mortal human being to an immortal human being, a celestial state. That there was talk of her being married to someone important in their faith. Lori told Adam that she had more priesthood authority than the priesthood did. In their religion, men hold the priesthood, but she was in a state above that. Adam would just let her say what she wanted to say. She would ask if he thought she was crazy, and he told her that what she says is not true. Lori stopped talking to him after that. Adam tried to tell his family of Lori's beliefs. The response was, Lori's in a delusion. She'll come out of it at some point. And Adam's family actually cut him off for calling out Lori's beliefs. Now, I do want to be very clear, just in case I mess this up. There is an Alex and an Adam involved in this. Alex Cox is the shooter. Adam is the witness, in case I missay it when I'm going through my notes. At the end of June, Adam received emails that were claiming to be from Charles about Chad Daybell coming to write a book for him. The email claimed it was about Charles's career playing baseball, but Adam knew Charles wasn't interested in that. The emails were inviting Chad to Arizona, and after talking to Charles, they believed Lori was having an affair with Chad. Charles seemed desperate when talking about that. Charles thought Lori was going overboard, going to the temple 5 times a week. You don't do that. So he thought if her temple recommend was taken away, she would come back to normal. Adam and Charles talked about intervention. He wanted to confront and record her so the stake president could hear what she was saying. They didn't have a specific plan with a date and time, but on July 9, 2019, Charles paid Adam's flight to Arizona. Adam was asking to stay at Alex's, and Alex agreed to let him stay. But he didn't stay with Alex. Alex didn't respond once Adam arrived. Adam stayed at his mom and dad's house. Adam knew Charles was also flying in. Charles was going to pick up JJ the morning of the 11th. Adam got a text message that Alex was at Lori's house that morning. Adam knew something was off. Adam was concerned Alex was at the house. The state gives Adam a printout of text messages that he had with Charles on the 9th, 10th, and 11th, and he verifies them. The state moves to admit them, and Lori objects, saying this is a report, not a full extraction. I think this is, again, her complaint with, they're not turning over everything, according to her. Judge said that wouldn't be an objection, but just to the weight, and they are admitted and published. Adam knew Charles had reached out to Lori and Chad's wife about the fake emails for the book offer. The messages start with talk of Adam flying out for the intervention, talk of people getting together without Lori knowing about the intervention. Different ways they might do it were discussed. Brandon Boudreaux played basketball with Adam and his son, but that wasn't part of the intervention conversation. That just happened. They discussed how they would secretly record Lori. Charles seemed desperate to have a last-ditch effort to break Lori out of the spell. She is hurting too many families. She is potentially gone forever. They show the text messages about Alex being at Lori's house. Adam said they are planning something in a text message to Charles the morning of the 11th. Charles responded, absolutely. They talk about how suddenly his text messages around 7 a.m. stopped being read, and then Charles's phone reads a message at 12:13 p.m. Adam didn't know Charles was shot and killed on the 11th. So Adam went to Tucson to visit his friend Eric and talked to him about how strange it was that Charles wasn't contacting him. Adam and Charles worried some members of Lori's family, like Alex, might try to stop the intervention. While in Tucson, Eric Googled Charles Vallow, and they found out that Charles was killed by Alex Cox. Adam never told anyone about the intervention plan, so if Adam's sister, a few hours after Charles was shot, told detectives that she was confronting Charles about the intervention plan, she didn't learn about it from Adam. Adam then explains the story of Nephi. He was a prophet, a humble and faithful servant of the Lord, and ironic enough, his brothers tried to kill him at one point. He actually ended up going to Jerusalem to get these plates back. He was run off, came back, and then went back again because the Lord asked him to. When he did, King Laban, who was actually a wicked king, was laying on the ground drunk in front of him, and Nephi was told to kill Laban. God told him to kill Laban, and he killed Laban. It was a justified killing to benefit the nation and his descendants. Adam was aware Lori told people Charles was possessed by evil spirits. He was aware of Lori saying Charles was dark. Lori says hearsay, but they're asking if he's aware of it, which the judge says can be answered, and yes, he was. Adam wanted the intervention to help Charles and Lori. After he learned Alex killed Charles, he cried, got angry, and called Kay to see if she knew Charles was dead. He learned Charles was killed on July 11th. Adam confronted his mother. She said she knew Charles was dead. Adam said to explain what was going on, and his mother said, "You tell me what's going on." Adam went back to his mother's house, and the conversation did not go well because Adam stuck up for Charles. Adam, after this, went home with his son. Adam didn't talk to his family for a long time after this, and now Lori is up for cross. So Lori is going to speak to her brother. Lori asks, how long has it been since we've seen each other? He doesn't know. He said he doesn't know when he last saw her. Lori lists out years, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. She sounds kind of angry to me. Lori seems angry that he can't remember the last time that he saw Lori in person. Lori asks if he saw her at Colby's wedding, and Adam says he didn't go, and Lori goes, And I'm wondering if this line of questioning is because she saw Colby in the courtroom today. He says maybe he saw Lori in 2018 in a kitchen. Lori asks if they were eating her green chili chicken enchiladas. He said he doesn't remember that. Lori asks again, he doesn't remember that? Lori asks, is that what she always makes during family get-togethers? Adam doesn't remember that. Lori seems a little angry that he doesn't know about these green chili chicken enchiladas. He doesn't know when their last phone call or text message was. Lori asks, when does he think the final message was? He doesn't know. They used to talk more often before 2018, keeping in touch. Adam lived in lots of places in his career. Lori lived lots of places. Adam didn't physically see or hear Lori conspire with Adam Cox to murder Charles Vallow. No more questions. So there's a redirect. Adam has not spoken to Lori since Charles was shot and killed. In 2018, the time they're talking about is when Lori said she was becoming a celestial being and other things that didn't align with the LDS faith. She asked Adam if she was crazy, and he said, I don't know if you're crazy, but what you're telling me is not true. They stopped talking after that. Adam found it off. Wait, let me make sure I get this right. Adam found it off that Alex broke off their plans to be at Lori's house the day of the shooting. Alex had guns. Charles was going to pick up JJ. State asked, "Do you find it odd your brother would go to the house JJ was in with a loaded gun and extra magazine?" Lori objects and tries to argue, but the judge overrules her. Adam said he finds it odd his brother would take those things to a location JJ was. Seems extreme. Adam told his family he believed Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles because Lori said Charles was dead and some guy named Ned was living in his body, a zombie living inside of him. All the things added up in the moment of the morning. When he found out Charles had been killed, he had no doubt in his mind. The judge decides that maybe this did go a little too far for a redirect and lets Lori recross if she wants to, and Lori doesn't. And the jury has no questions. So here we are at Serena Sharp. She is up. She's a member of the LDS Church. She attended an event for the group Preparing the People. That is a conference for emergency preparedness and getting ready for the second coming of the Lord. She attended a few of them. One of them in 2018 in Arizona. She knew Melanie Gibbs. She planned to stay with Melanie Gibb instead of staying at Melanie's. Instead, she ended up staying at Melanie's friend's house. That friend was Lori Vallow. She points out Lori in the courtroom. A lot of people were staying there that weekend, and she met Chad Daybell at Lori's home there. She spoke with Chad after the conference, too. She saw him at another conference in Idaho. She met with Chad in Idaho to talk about maybe living there. She knew Chad was married at the time, and she knew Lori was married at the time, and she didn't know Lori and Chad were having an affair. She kept talking to Lori after this trip and was invited back to Arizona for a girls' weekend. At Zalima's house, she met Zalima at one of the conferences. Now, I have to add in my own thoughts here. The least shocking thing ever is that what seemed to amount to a religious prepper conference led to people willing to murder their families to meet up and get together. I mean, if you ever asked me to come up with an event that would find people that would decide to do that together, I would literally guess a religious preppers conference. It just kind of ticks all of the boxes. She lists the people that were there that weekend. Lori talked about her beliefs and that she didn't need to repent. Lori had a couple of verses in the Bible that she believes means she doesn't need to repent. She was shocked at that. The witness was shocked because that goes against her religion. This witness was interviewed by police in 2021. She told the detective, she said, "We don't need to repent anymore because we've come to that stage." She wanted all of us to believe that. She doesn't remember telling the detective that exact phrase, but if it's in the report that was closer to that time, it's what happened. She remembers Lori assigning people with dark and light levels. Lori talked of changing physically, and and something else that I didn't list here. It basically was a translated concept. Maybe physically and religiously or something, or spiritually. Lori talks of casting that weekend. Lori talked about casting more than once. Casting was to cleanse evil from an area and not a specific person. Lori asked everyone, however, to cast out her husband, Charles. It stood out that it was a single person, her husband. She talked about her husband being possessed by an evil spirit named Ned. Witness says she was asking Lori a lot of questions and others in the group about castings. Lori told her Charles was no longer her husband Charles. Ned was in Charles's body. Lori used the term zombie. Lori said zombie was evil spirits and people like her husband. After questioning things, she was treated differently and the group cast out together against Ned. It was just one time from her memory that they tried to cast Ned out. Sorry if that's a little quick, but I am trying to get this done while I can before I have to do some things and then get back to cover the rest of the case. So to me, what stood out is, again, it really felt like a revenge tour against Adam, right? That's the feeling I got. Like, she's like, what about me? You didn't talk to me. You haven't seen me. What about my enchiladas? Like, that's what she's worried about, right? Like, she is on trial for the conspiracy to murder her husband, and she is asking if he remembers her enchiladas. And I think that says a lot about Lori's state of mind. I continue to believe that this is purely her revenge tour. We are back. Same witness. This witness spent 2 weeks getting to know Lori Vallow. Lori started limiting contact with the witness when she questions Lori's beliefs outside the church. She had seen Lori twice more after moving to Arizona. Lori was at a welcoming event for the witness along with Alex Cox when she moved to the area. The witness said hi, and Lori sat on the other side of the restaurant. Witness came after Lori lost her husband, to see her, but doesn't know if she was included to going to that by accident. She didn't know how Charles died at the time. Lori seemed stoic. No mourning or crying. She didn't know Lori moved or married Chad Daybell. Maybe a few texts after that, talking because a husband died, trying to be nice, but nothing of substance. Lori is up for the cross. Lori asks if the witness took an oath and swore to tell the truth, so help you God. And then Lori says, so we can agree that this court acknowledges that your testimony here today will be accountable to God. Objection, relevance sustained. Lori says, Your Honor, they brought up the religion, and it was kind of said in a whiny voice. The judge says he didn't ask for a response. It's sustained. Next question. The witness asks, do you believe your testimony here will be accountable to God? And the witness says, yes. They met in person 4 times. Maybe 2 or 3 one-on-one conversations during those meetings with no one else involved. Probably more than 10 times. Calling on the cell phone. Witness doesn't know how many texts. Lori asks, maybe some of the things you remember aren't from me directly. Witness says perhaps. Lori wants to know what Lori said verbatim about the zombies. The witness said that Lori talked about zombies during the girls' weekend. Lori says, I talked about it from my mouth and not from someone else's. Objection, argumentative, overruled, but rephrase. The witness is saying under oath that best of her recollection, Lori herself said the word zombie. Lori asks, could it have been someone else? State objects, but it's overruled. Lori asks again, could it have been someone else who said it? And the witness said it's possible, but she doesn't think so. You have to remember, this is something from 6 years ago. Lori gets louder and says she wants to know the exact sentence that she said about zombies. She's obviously getting mad. Lori had to rephrase because asked and answered. Lori does it again with the same objection. The judge at this point agrees with the objection but allows it. Witness says it was 6 years ago. I don't remember verbatim. Lori says it's possible it never came out of her mouth. Objection, asked and answered, now a 3rd time. You can tell the state's getting a little annoyed at the judge. Sustained. Lori then asks who are the 3 Nephites in the Book of Mormon. Witness doesn't know the answer off the top of her head. Now, this is kind of a thing. I think I talk about it later. The witness believes Lori is asking for the names of the Nephites, not what they are. They thought it was like a direct, who are these people, not what are these people, that type of thing. Lori asks about John the Revelator in the Bible and John the Revelator being translated. The witness says she doesn't remember that. Lori asked about Elijah in the Old Testament. Was he translated? Objection to relevant, and the judge asked the relevance, because at this point, we're talking, Mormon scripture? Lori says, I've been accused of being out of the scope of the LDS religion when this is exactly in the scope of the LDS religion. And the judge's response, I don't think Lori caught it the way he said it. The judge says, as far as you comparing yourself to these biblical figures, I will allow it. Like, that's not a win, Lori. Witness believes Elijah was translated. Witness says the Nephites were translated. Lori asks, and is it not uncommon in the Christian belief to believe in people being translated? Witness says she isn't qualified to answer that for all of Christianity, which I think is fair. Lori asks if she is a Christian who believes in the Bible. Objection, relevance, and the judge says he'll allow it, but briefly. Witness believes in it. She believes in the translated people in the Bible. Those people in the Bible being translated isn't outside of the witness's beliefs. The girls' weekend, they went to lunch, went to temple, they did projects. She doesn't remember how long the prayer was. It was a small portion of the weekend, though. She has had many conversations with Christina Atwood. Their relationship has grown over the past 5 years. I don't know where this is coming from. Lori asks if they are now in-laws, and the answer is no. And then Lori responds, just wondering. And the state asks the judge to tell Lori to stop commenting after her answers. The witness hasn't spoken to Zelima for a while. Witness doesn't know who Kay Woodcock is. Witness speaks to Nicole Earle. Witness doesn't talk to Melanie Gibb, but they do run into each other sometimes. Lori asked the witness that Lori said she doesn't need to repent and that the witness was shocked. And the witness says, yeah, she was shocked by that. Lori wants to know what she said to her. And it was over 6 years ago, so she doesn't know verbatim. Lori asks, how would that come up? And she doesn't remember. The witness remembers Lori saying that to her directly in front of everyone. Lori asks, why would she be the one speaking in front of everyone? And the woman says, sometimes we take turns when speaking. Like, this is like a child logic, right? Like, imagine you have a group of 5 friends, right? You have 5 friends. Have you ever been in a scenario where someone is talking and everyone else is listening? Like, Lori is acting like that is some crazy new, obscene idea that there's no way that happened, right? It's a revenge tour. I think I have some notes here about that, but we'll get more into that. Lori asked about the witness saying she was uncomfortable about some of the topics that weekend. She says, yes. Why didn't you leave if you were uncomfortable? She was still there with friends and she flew across the country to be there. But you are a grown woman, correct? Yes, it would be fair to say you didn't disagree so much with it at the time, but now you disagree. The witness says, I don't think that's a fair comment. No. Would it be fair to say we had a good time that weekend? Yes. Now you change your mind. Changed my mind about what? About you being made uncomfortable. No, I haven't changed my mind. Here's my note. This is Lori's revenge tour. Lori is personally upset. The woman said she was uncomfortable by Lori. Lori caused a problem 6 years ago. Lori is taking that as a personal insult. Now she is harassing the witness, not to help her case, but to try to make the witness look bad, knowing how many people are watching. Again, I get so many Sarah Boone vibes from the way she talks. This is not about helping her case. This is about trying to get it one over on this person. But remember, she got mad at the other witness because he doesn't remember her green chili chicken enchiladas. This witness, she's angry because they were uncomfortable. Like, this is a woman who had multiple friends at this group. She flew across the country, and Lori's like, well, if I made you uncomfortable, why didn't you leave? Probably because the woman could pretty much ignore you, Lori. You're not that important. The witness mentioned something about, and then Lori has a long pause. Interviewed by police a couple of times. 2 times. First time Nate Moffat, spring 2020. Doesn't remember how long the interview was. Longer than a few minutes. Second interview was 2 detectives from Idaho. That was longer, over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Lori asked what could she have told the police for an hour and a half about someone she had only met a couple of times in her life. Objection. Relevance. Sustained. And I have a note here. These detectives were from Idaho, so Lori almost opened the door on JJ and Tylee being dead. So what were they interested in you telling them? Objection. Speculation. Sustained. Lori's still knocking on that door. What did you tell them about me in the interview? Objection. Overbroad. Judge adds hearsay and then sustains it. Do you feel like you have something to offer today in relation to the crime that I am being charged with? Objection. Sustained. Did you witness Lori conspire with her brother or anyone else to murder my husband, Charles Vallow? I did not. It's time for redirect. The witness takes her oath seriously. Everything she said is true to the best of her knowledge. This happened 6 years ago. She did not tally up how many times she texted Lori. Things stand out she remembers well, such as Lori saying she doesn't need to repent, such as Lori saying Charles was possessed by an evil spirit named Ned. Biblical figures are translated, but she had never heard a person saying they were being translated. She can't remember how many prayers they did over the girls' weekend, but the casting one specifically felt different. They were a different type of prayer. Witness asked others about Lori, saying she didn't need to repent, but she didn't just pack up and run away. She was friends with people there, and she didn't make things up about Lori with these people. These are her own memories, and the jury has no questions. Next up is William McDonald, a retired police officer from the Chandler Police Department, and he's trained in cell phone extraction. He explains how extractions work and confirms they keep the original extract intact. This is very important since Lori keeps talking about only getting reports and not a full extraction. He identifies a phone that had a pin to access it being 0, 0, 0, 0. Extraction began July 17th. He identifies photos of the phone. While processing it, he shows the photos, and you can see the phone is in airplane mode, so the data is secure from changes. The phone had a SIM card. He explains how they charged the phone, and 0000 let him in the phone. He shows the phone identifying data. He did a full file extraction that records everything possible, including some deleted data. Newer versions have never shown changes to the previous data. Sometimes they just find new items better. Basically saying that basically this is future proofing, and if Lori says, well, we used a brand new version and it had something different, well, it doesn't change things, it just finds more. It took about an hour to extract it with the gray key. Once that single container file, they open that file and make it a more readable format. He did no research on that phone after getting the information. He would give the Cellbrite reader file that would allow detectives to read it, because Cellbrite is expensive, so they use a reader version that can only read it after it's been extracted, I guess. It includes all the data, though. No questions from Lori, but a question from the jury. If someone deleted their browser history, you can recover it. He says sometimes if it's more recent, and by recent he means like within the last year. So after all of that complaining about cell phone data, no questions from Lori. Next is Marissa Francisco, a forensic scientist. She explains her career. She explains how fingerprints being left behind work. Someone doesn't always leave a fingerprint or a print of good quality. You can wipe away or smudge prints. Explains the process to get a print from an item. Talk of how fingerprints are compared. The witness identifies the bat she tried to get fingerprints from. It's the bat from the scene. They swabbed grip for DNA, but due to the texture, it probably wouldn't have had prints. It's just not a good surface for it. Witness starts checking her notes. A photo of the bat is being shown. No visually seen prints, so they did super glue fuming and found prints. They found 2 prints and they took photos of it. They appear to be fingerprints due to the shape and size of the first one. The second one was less clear what type of print it was. Both were determined to not be viable for identifying, but possible for exclusions. She was asked to compare them to 3 individuals: Charles Vallow, Lori Vallow, Alex Cox. She was then asked to compare them to Charles Vallow to determine they did not come from Charles Vallow. The first was inconclusive. She couldn't identify or exclude Charles Vallow. The second print was also inconclusive to Charles Vallow. She was not asked to do comparisons to Lori, Alex, or Tylee. Cross from Lori. I thought maybe there'd be something big here. Lori just asks if the DNA got tested, and she says she doesn't know because she just sends it off, and that was all for this witness, and they go into a break. So we got another example of Lori on her revenge tour. She's angry that this woman, I assume, my guess is, slighted her by talking about how basically unsettling Lori was while being a host for an event, right? And it really reminds me of the green chili chicken enchiladas, which I'm probably going to keep saying that phrase because I can't stop. I won't stop. I want green chili chicken enchiladas right now. I actually really do. And it's also just something that's going to stick out from this case for me probably forever, because it is such a stupid thing for her to harp on, and it really shows where her head is at during all of this. I am very interested, and I hope Colby Ryan goes live tonight. I would love to know his thoughts on Lori doing things like this and saying things like this today, since he was in the courtroom. In my coverage, in very serious cases like this, I do try to add a bit of levity, mentioning how Lori was so strung up on things like green chili chicken enchiladas, or how many times people texted her, that type of thing. This next part, it's just sad. It's just sad. We are back with the next witness, Kay Woodcock. And I go into this fully expecting Lori to be absolutely terrible on cross because Kay got Charles's life insurance. And honestly, I might have some things to say when I finish my coverage of this. Kay is Charles Vallow's sister. She explains her family structure. She was close to Charles and points to Lori Vallow in the courtroom. Talks of Charles and Lori's marriage. They got married in Vegas, so Kay couldn't attend, but there was a party somewhere else for the family. Talk of Charles's kids before the marriage: Cole Vallow and Zach Vallow. Lori had Colby Ryan and Tylee Ryan. Charles's sons never lived with them after the marriage. Tylee was still a minor in 2019. Colby was an adult. Charles's children were adults. Charles and Lori adopted Kay's grandson JJ in July of 2014. He was autistic and born premature. JJ was 7 in 2019. In July of 2019, if Lori said she was taking care of 5 children, that wasn't correct. And they explained that when Charles was in town, JJ was 100% of his responsibility. But no, Lori did not have 5 children to take care of. She had Tylee and JJ. JJ loved to fly to visit family. Charles was a financial planner. He had to travel a lot. Lori helped doing something in Charles's job. Kay wasn't sure what. Charles was drafted into the Houston Astros when he was younger. He was a left-handed pitcher who batted left-handed. That's very important because remember, Lori claims that he bats right. He blew out his knee and that ended that. He was still active. Kay's family did not grow up LDS, which means Charles did not grow up LDS, but he converted after marrying Lori. In March of 2018, Kay's mother died, but Lori didn't go, which Kay thought was appalling from Lori for not going, because Charles went. Charles's mother died, and Lori wouldn't go. Kay and Lori did get along, at least early on, and Kay loved her. Charles and JJ met with Kay's family for Thanksgiving in 2018, what they found odd, but at the time, Charles didn't say what was going on. Lori wasn't with her. Kay had concerns about Charles and Lori's relationship, but Charles wouldn't say much. In 2019, Charles started to go see Kay more, and she knew the marriage was in trouble. In 2019, Charles was concerned for his safety. Lori sent Kay a text about her and Charles were fighting, and that her, JJ, and Tylee went to a hotel, and Charles called Kay. So Kay flew out to meet him, because Lori's family at this point had turned their back on him. Kay at this point learned now there was a huge problem with Charles and Lori's relationship. Kay spoke to Charles about concerns for his safety. Nobody would tell Charles where Lori was. JJ was now with Charles, and Kay started coming out to help Charles with JJ. Tylee, as far as they knew, was with Lori's brother. 58 days. Charles had JJ and couldn't find Lori. Charles moved to Houston with JJ because Charles said Lori didn't want him, JJ, or Tylee anymore. So Lori didn't want to have her husband or her kids. Kay would help take care of JJ. Kay helped with Charles's business as well. Charles had to change all the passwords and accounts so Lori just couldn't access it anymore. When Charles was packing to leave to do that move to Houston, Lori showed up. Charles was on the phone and didn't know Lori was behind him. When he turned around and saw her, Charles started crying. And Lori started yelling at him. Why did you take JJ? Why are you moving? This is all your fault. After 58 days of no contact, she shows up the day they're moving out. The two talked, went into a different room, and periodically Kay could hear Lori shouting while in another room. At one point, Lori goes up to Kay and says she loves her, and Lori cried. Someone at some point took all of Tylee's belongings the next day. Doesn't know who. Charles still wanted Lori to be part of JJ's life, even though Lori did not want JJ. Charles told Lori she is welcome to join them in Houston. He would fly her out, but she said no, she was busy. She had something she had to do in Hawaii. 2 weeks later, she showed up in Houston. Her and Tylee moved in Houston then. Charles stopped asking Kay to help with the business when Lori came back. Around this time, Charles came into a large amount of money in his commissions, and Lori knew of it. At some point, Lori left Houston and went back to Arizona and took JJ with her. Charles didn't move back. Lori was a hairdresser until she married Charles, and as far as Kay knew, since marrying Charles, she didn't work outside the home. Charles worked so Lori could be a stay-at-home mother. Kay knew Charles had a life insurance policy. Charles helped Kay and her husband get $1 million life insurance policy each and talked about him and Lori having one. This was not an unusual type of conversation. Kay had a conversation about the beneficiary of his life insurance, and he told Kay he was changing it to her. It was maybe a 1.5-minute conversation, and she never followed up. She didn't know if he actually did it until she got a phone call after he was killed. This conversation they had about Kay becoming the beneficiary was when he couldn't find Lori and Kay was taking care of JJ. Kay saw Charles last in June. She thinks he visited for the weekend. JJ wasn't with him. The last time she saw JJ was May 18th. Charles texted Kay the night before he was shot. She thought he was just going to see JJ. She had no idea about the intervention. She trusted Adam to be with Charles. Kay doesn't remember Charles saying he wanted a place in Phoenix to be closer to JJ. Kay learned Charles died July 12th while at a nail salon. Kay got a call from Cole, one of Charles's sons, saying he got a text from Lori that Dad is dead. Cole said Lori wasn't answering phone calls. Kay called her husband and he said he'll call her right back. Kay's husband called her back and he Googled and Charles is dead. Alex killed him yesterday. It was horrible. Kay cries on the stand. Talks of having to call her siblings and let them all know. Kay is handed tissues. She said everyone's freaking out. She didn't know what to do. She called Cole and told him it was true. Kay was telling people, let's keep in touch and share what we find out. She tried calling and texting Lori, trying to call and text Charles. Lori eventually returned a text saying she had to deal with a lot, and she was too busy to call his family to say he was dead by her brother killing him. At this point, Kay needed a moment to compose herself. Understandable. Kay called the detectives to be able to speak to a detective, get that done. She had talked to a detective before Lori, and she told them that she had arranged a flight because she needed to know where JJ was. What had he seen? What had JJ known? She knew it wasn't good. She had to talk to detectives before anything with Lori. When she met with detectives, she told them about the life insurance policy but didn't know if it was changed. But we had to get JJ because JJ was not safe with Lori. The state says, let me stop you there. Again, we are knocking on the door. We are knocking on the door of the jury learning JJ and Tylee were killed. Just from what they have heard, they have to be wondering, where is JJ and Tylee? Are we going to hear from Tylee? She's now an adult. Are we going to hear from JJ? They have to be wondering. Before Lori knew she wasn't getting the money Charles had in his life insurance, she had Charles cremated and FedExed to Kay's office with his Letterman jacket, some cheap sunglasses, and a couple watches. You see, Charles had a watch collection, and Lori sent Kay crap watches. Again, this is before Lori knew she wasn't a beneficiary of that life insurance policy. Kay set up a service for Charles, a memorial service. The last time Kay talked to Lori, Kay was trying to be nice, but she knew Lori had something to do with his murder. Kay is a bad liar, so when she talked to Lori, she had to ask what to do with the stuff in Houston. It was hard. Lori said, you all split it. Just you take what you want. So when they got there, none of Charles's belongings were there. Nothing. All of it. Just Charles's business files and big furniture. Kay found out the beneficiary was changed because the following week a lady called her and said she was a sole beneficiary and asked the address and wanted to verify a few things to send out the check. Lori confronted Kay about being the beneficiary via text, a text with the image of the change of beneficiary form. Lori then texted about needing to take care of 5 kids and his sister gets all the money. Is that why you want JJ? Kay said she just wanted JJ, period. Lori said she was left with 5 kids, but she didn't have 5 kids. It was Tylee and JJ still in the house. Kay got the okay to go get JJ to take him to Charles's service, but after the change of beneficiary form, Lori was too busy, and JJ, it was too hard on him. He needed to be with her. This ended most of the contact she had with Lori, except to speak to JJ. Lori's cross, and you can see and hear Kay go, oh boy. Lori asked where Kay was on July 11th, 2019, and she was home in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Kay says the relationship between Tylee and Charles seemed to always have drama. Charles didn't say much, and Kay didn't pry. And I might put a note here. I still think Lori is going to claim that Tylee shot Charles by the end of this case. I can feel it. Kay knew there was contention between those two for a while. Kay wasn't aware of the events that morning when Charles was murdered. Kay adds she didn't know because you didn't tell me. Lori asks if she personally heard Lori and Alex Cox conspire to murder Charles, and Kay says no, but she saw a ton of evidence that they did. No further questions. That final bit, maybe something could have been said about hearsay or something, but no one's going to question it. Redirect. How old was Tylee when Lori and Charles got married? She was 3. Charles was in her life most of her memorable years. Tylee was 16 in July of 2019, a teenager. The two had good times. It wasn't that they couldn't look at each other or anything like that. A teenage girl is hard, but there were a lot of issues with Tylee's dad, Lori's ex-husband, in custody. It was a mess. Tylee had a lot going on in her life. Kay never saw anything that sticks out of them not getting along. She just knew Charles would say it was difficult. Which, as a step-parent, it can be difficult. On July 11th, when Charles Vallow was killed, she had no idea he was dead. How would she know? She didn't hear it from Lori Vallow. It was from Google after her husband found it. No questions from the jury. Well, the judge is saying no court tomorrow and explaining to the jury about next week. The camera turns and shows Kay Woodcock hugging someone. Judging by people in the court, it was probably Colby Ryan. Monday and Tuesday are going to start a little early. Half an hour earlier than this week for anyone wanting to watch. So, as I said, there's nothing funny. No, nothing. I thought Lori would do more, but I think Lori knew continuing to question Kay was going to make her look bad. And this is her revenge tour, and while I'm sure she'd love revenge on Kay, it doesn't work if Lori feels like she's the one getting the bad side of it. So, I didn't know that Lori refused to allow JJ to go to the service after the beneficiary thing. That was obviously payback, right? And now I wonder how much of their murder was not only payback, but I mean, people always thought that she probably killed the kids to try to get the benefits that JJ was getting, right? The survivor benefits. But with that being said, I wonder how much of it was to get back at Kay. Because Lori didn't want JJ. Lori didn't want Tylee, and now they're dead. Jury doesn't know that. Jury doesn't know that. I just keep thinking, imagine you were on this jury, right? And I think if you're on this jury, you find Lori guilty and you have no question. That's my opinion. But imagine you were on this jury. You're on this jury, and you end and you never find out they died. Imagine I'm assuming they're going to let the jury leave so they aren't hounded by media. I think the jury, some people like video the jury leaving Sarah Boone. I'm not entirely sure on that. I might be misremembering, but there seems to be less security with this trial than like keeping the jurors away from people. So it could be they get swarmed as soon as it's over. But either way, Imagine you find her guilty, and if it doesn't come out that they're dead. Like, imagine the emotions that hit you after everything you've heard, and you find out that Lori is a convicted murderer of her own kids. Like, imagine they walk out of the courthouse and someone comes up to them and asks, what do they, if they know, or like, even if not, imagine they're home and they Google her name. Imagine coming across a video like this. Imagine going to the videos of the trial and reading the comments below. I think if it's not available, there should be some form of free therapy after a case like this. Maybe it is available because this involves murder and there's graphic images. Maybe that is available from the state, from the what county, whatever. It's just, I don't know how I would handle it. And I really don't know how I would handle it if I was one of the individuals sat there, because there might be someone who questions whether this woman could do this, right? Imagine if they find her not guilty. Imagine they find Lori Vallow not guilty of this, the jury does. And then you find out what she did to her children. You find her not guilty because you don't think she's capable of this. That's something I always try to think about, like, being on the jury, like, seeing this information for the first time. Is it actually helping her case? And of course, I don't think Lori's helping herself. But in this particular one, what they don't know might be just as traumatic, if not more, than what they've seen during this case. And that is bad. Like, imagine you get through it, this stressful case, and it's finally over. It's finally over, and these murders are kept from you, and you find out after. Like, I wouldn't be able to help myself but dive into what I didn't know. But that's just kind of where I wanted. I knew I wanted to talk about it, so I just put it here at the end. Um, Again, this is the last court appearance for the week. There was talk of a possible motions thing tomorrow. I'm not seeing mention of it, so I guess that's not happening. Any videos that come out this weekend? I don't know. I don't have any ideas for this weekend. I've got to do some things. I've got to go shopping. I have watched this trial, right? I have to watch the trial, record the videos, put them together, render it, upload it. I'm there in the chat. I don't have a lot of time, so I got to do a bunch this weekend. I also still have to fit in my taxes that I haven't started, and that's on Tuesday. Probably not going to do them tomorrow because I just want a break. Maybe start Saturday, the worst case Sunday, maybe finish Monday, Tuesday. I mean, they probably won't take me long to do. I think I have everything. If not, I can find it online. I should have everything, though. I did go through about 2 weeks ago and just gather items. How much I owe, that's going to be that's a whole other problem I'll deal with for future me. And by future me, I mean like in 2 days when I cry. So that's my plan. As I said, I'm planning to keep covering this case until it ends. That's not changed. I don't feel sick. I mentioned that I was dealing with someone who was bedbound and I was helping them. I appear to have not gotten it. At least it hasn't struck me yet. I'm checking my schedule for anything else. Anything else would be a conflict. I don't think I have any conflicts coming up for this case. As long as we stick Monday through Thursday, I don't think I'll have conflicts. The 17th next week, there's an update to a game. 2 games, technically, and I'm going to have to pick which one I go with. That I want to possibly play for the other channel. I don't know yet, but I will prioritize this case above that, so that's not a problem. Yeah, I don't think there's any other conflicts, just for anyone wondering, so my coverage should continue without worry. But yeah, I just want to thank everyone who watches, everyone that likes, comments, subscribes. I like the chats. I try to be as active as I can. Sometimes when it's premiering, I do have to multitask a little bit because I've kind of locked in for the whole day, and things have to get done still. So sometimes I'm like on mobile. Generally, the video itself's not playing for me. I'm simply in the chat with you all. So my context for certain things might be off. And then, of course, I want to do the same thing for the next trial. Hopefully. I saw some people talk about other cases. I don't have the time. I don't have the time if I'm watching this one and covering all of it to do more right now. I might talk about stuff Friday, Saturday, Sunday in short videos. There's a video I did last night of the wife of the bassist for the band Weaver getting shot by police while she had a gun outside her own home, and now she's charged with attempted murder. Like, stuff like that might happen. If there's any crazy tariff stuff, I might talk about that. But beyond that, this is my main focus. I still haven't watched the 60 Minutes interview with Lori, and I really should. I don't know if I'll find the time because, as I said, I got things I have to do. That might be a video that pops out one weekend in the middle of this trial if I find time. Or if something happens in like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, they have to not have trial. Maybe jurors have issues and they have to delay a day. Maybe I'll fit it in there to just have content for that day. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's everything. Sorry, I'm kind of looking over my mic so I can actually check my little calendar there. Thank you all. I appreciate you all. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next video. If you want to use Buy Me a Coffee, I probably have it pinned in the comment when I remember. Half the time I don't remember. I'm mostly just trying to get the videos out after I render them. Make sure you check out Colby Ryan's YouTube channel. I think you just search Colby Ryan, he'll come up. I expect he'll do something to talk about tonight. Maybe not soon. I mean, if he was hugging Kay, maybe he's going to go out to dinner with her and talk to her, which I think is appropriate. But maybe in the next few days, he might do a live and talk about the experience in the court and what it was like to see Lori. I kind of want to know if Lori looked at him before she referenced his wedding, stuff like that. But thank you all. I'm out. I've rambled long enough. Off we go to the next video.